What's happening, party people? Welcome to Throwback Thursday. In today's video, I was in a salvage yard, looked like Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was trying to pick out an engine or a cylinder head to put on a vehicle that I was repairing. The biggest thing you want to do is try to do a compression test wet. It'll be cold, but at least you'll get some numbers, hopefully between 60 and 90, letting you know that that head is good and that the engine is also probably good. If it's binding up, has zero compression, you know that thing's damaged and you'll have to fix it. A good indication would be a vehicle that's wrecked. If a car is wrecked, look like it's been totaled, then the engine may still be good, unless they were driving around with a bad engine. So just a couple precautions in doing that. I'm still in Houston. After I leave Houston, I'm going to Cincinnati. From Cincinnati, I may dip into Virginia or go straight over to Terre Haute, Indiana. And after that, I'm going to Lincoln, Nebraska, and to Albuquerque, New Mexico, Las Vegas, Nevada, and then to South California. So that's my schedule. If you're on the schedule, you know it. If you're not on the schedule, I may be able to help you with something brief, timing belt, some diagnostics, meet and greet, something like that. But I'm not going to be able to stop and do a project with you. Something that'll take less than a day, I'm open for. Something that'll take 3-4 days. I'm not going to interrupt my schedule to do that until I get done with this West Coast, make a new schedule. So I get people ask me, hey, Robert, when you going to be in my area? I need you here as soon as possible. Man, the only way I can bump you in the schedule is if, one, you really need me because you don't have any transportation that's reliable. Number two, man, you're going to have to pay for the trip. You know, if I don't make somewhere around $300 a day, my part, it's hard for me to survive financially. So, an example, if you want me to drive 12 hours, man, that's a whole day. You got to cover the cost of that travel, gas, meals, stuff like that, and cut me $300 a day so that I can get there. Same with me getting back. It's a little bit different than driving a car to a shop and dropping it off and waiting several days for them to get you in the schedule and fix it. But if you want me to bump you in the line because this is an urgent situation for you to get some transportation, that's the only way it'll work with me. Fortunately, I got to live too. And usually people that do that still save money versus dropping their car off at a shop, especially if you got an older car that they may not fix properly. At least with me, you know it's going to get fixed properly. My rates are very reasonable. You just got to pick up those travel expenses, and it may be worth doing that. You know, I had a guy sent for me to come to his area. At the end of the day, his tab for everything was around $1,200. If he would have had a shop do that, he would have been between $1,800 and $2,400. Still saved $600 and got the job done. So that's where we're at with stuff like that. Again, Houston is warming up, almost totally thawed out. We're going to get some stuff done here with the guy that I'm helping here and get to moving. Try to get back on track on this schedule. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Have a great day. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you could click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'm going to try to help you lower the risk in pulling a bad motor out of a car in the salvage yard. As you can see, I'm in the salvage yard, hundreds of cars out here, and I'm actually looking for a good head for a Volvo 850. And I believe this one is a head that hasn't been damaged too much. I believe it has a burnt valve. So this video kind of explains to you how to pick a motor and hopefully get a good one. I've had good success so far, and we're going to go from there. Of course, the best indicator is that the car is wrecked. I mean wrecked in a way that would make it difficult to drive or be unsafe to drive. If a car has extensive body damage, that's a good clue that this car was probably recently on the road and it had an accident and the motor's still good. Second thing to do is to try to look at the car if it doesn't have any visible damage. Really, the only thing I know to tell you is to do one of these dry compression tests, or you can actually wet them. So let me show you how I do the compression tests while the car is in the salvage yard. What I try to do is check compression. Of course, the numbers are not going to be good since you cannot crank the motor. The motor hadn't been running a while, it's not warm, but you should get some compression from it. If you don't get any compression in several of the cylinders, it's probably overheated and has extensive damage. But if you have decent compression in most of the cylinders and only one or two of them is low, really you only want one of them to be low, if any. If two of them's low, it's probably been an overheat situation, but you can check, see if it had a burnt valve. So first thing I do, I access the spark plugs, I pull the wires, pull the plugs, access the timing belt area where I can get access to the crank, and then I screw in my compression gauge. This is a standard compression gauge here. If you pull the spark plugs out of the car, it'll be easier to crank the motor over by hand. You want to do that as fast as you can. This compression gauge is about 45 bucks at your local auto parts store, or you could go to Freight Harbor, get one for probably under 30 bucks. But as you can see, it has all the PSI readings on there up to 300, and it has the tube on it and the adapter that'll fit in the spark plug holes. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw this in number one and put my socket on the crank and turn the motor over. Another thing that you want to be aware of when you're trying to determine if a motor is good or not, if you need the whole motor, you want to put a wrench on the crank, and once you got the spark plugs pulled, you should be able to turn that crank around with one hand. If you can't move that crank around, the bottom end has something probably major wrong with it, and you just want to step away. So here I got a ratchet on the crank, and as you can see, I can move this crank around with one hand. If you can't do that, there's more likely something wrong with the bottom end, and you don't need to get into all that kind of work if you're trying to swap a motor. You don't have to use a socket and extension and stuff like I have, but I do have a half-inch tools, a couple extensions so I could clear the wheel, and I'm gonna put this on the crank and turn it around at least 2 full times so I know I'll pop compression in that one cylinder at least 2 times and see what kind of reading I get on my gauge. I went around twice and got 60 psi. That's a little bit lower than I want. In one motor, I got between 90 and 95 psi across all the cylinders. Now what I can do is put a little oil in each cylinder, which I did bring about 2 ounces of oil with me. So in the other cylinders, I'm going to drop about a ½ ounce in each cylinder and see if I get higher readings on the gauge. You don't want to put too much oil in there because you don't want oil getting up on inside your gauge tube. You just want enough to wet the piston wall and hopefully seal the piston wall so that you could get a strongest reading as possible with that cylinder. So I had a little medicine bottle that I took from home. I put some oil in it. So I'm going to go ahead and pour about a ½ ounce in each cylinder so that I can hopefully get a compression reading on each cylinder and see what my compression is with some oil added. So this is going to be a cold, wet test on compression. So I'm going to relieve the pressure on that gauge, move it to the next cylinder, and check the compression through the rest of the cylinders. On the second cylinder, I got about 110 wet, so I'm going to check the other 3, let you know what I find. I did a compression on all the cylinders, and all of them came up between 110 and 125, except for number 3. So it's either got a burnt valve or a blown head gasket. Since only one of the cylinders were low, if it's a blown head gasket, it's probably repairable and not too bad. If it was more than one cylinder, I would probably try to find another head. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one and see if I can get it fixed. I got this head pretty much removed. Now for the moment of truth, to see if I have a burnt valve in number 3. like I thought I did. And here we go. Heck, I do not see a burnt valve in number 3. So this thing probably has a blown head gasket. But I'm going to look a little closer at these valves to see if any of number 3 is messed up. Okay, I did end up getting the head out of the junkyard, and basically one thing that I like to advise, if you're looking for a motor, make sure you have compression in every cylinder 60 plus. I took a motor once that had 90 plus, so that was good, and that ended up being a good motor. If there's not compression in all the cylinders, make sure you have compression in at least 4 cylinders. If one is bad, it's probably not warped too bad. If one is bad, you may have a burnt valve, or it could have been overheated. I assumed that because one was bad, it had a burnt valve, but it was actually overheated, but it wasn't warped that bad. Now, I did come and check this motor to check the head on it, and it had low compression on one cylinder, but it looks like this head has been off. The Volvo sealant is red. This stuff is gray there and down in the spark plug wells. So I left this motor alone because it's probably already been decked once, may not make it through another decking, and I don't need to be wasting my time. If you made it this far, I trust that you found some information that was either useful or entertaining, so go ahead and hit the like button. And if you would like notification of future videos that I post, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support. You can follow me on other social media apps by looking for @RobertDIY. Some form of that should bring up the other channels that I have on places like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. If for some reason you need some more personal help, go to my website at robertdiy.com and use the phone number that I have posted there to send me a text message, or you can email me. If you have questions or comments, please make a comment below. And if you'd like to make some kind of financial contribution to what I got going on here, go to my channel and hit the more link at the end of the introduction statement, and it'll show you different ways that you can support me financially. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.